Hello, and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing the Pumpkin Wagon die. This is one of our paper piecing style dies, so let's go ahead and check it out. This die comes with the base and also the detail piece of both the pumpkin wagon and an individual pumpkin. Now, my favorite way to put these dies together is to use double-sided adhesive sheets, and so that's what we're going to do here. This sheet, we're going to peel off one side of it, and then we're going to stick the sheet to a piece of black licorice cardstock. This is effectively going to create a sticker that we can die cut. Then we're going to die cut this with the main base pieces, so not the ones that have the frames, but the open base pieces, and we'll do that for both the pumpkin wagon and the pumpkin. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to die cut the pumpkin wagon and pumpkin from a bunch of different shades of cardstock, including black licorice cardstock for the frame and oranges, reds, grays, and greens for all of our different elements of the pumpkin. So the first thing we're going to do is peel up that piece of liner paper on the pumpkin, creating a sticker, and we're going to add the frame to that. And by doing this, we've almost created like a little puzzle that has adhesive on the back. So you're able to drop in the pieces and they're going to stick on that double-sided adhesive sheet. And I love doing it this way. You could also use liquid glue or tape runner, but the double-sided adhesive sheet makes it really, really easy. And now we're popping in our little puzzle pieces, and I just love doing these. There is something so relaxing about it. They're so fun, and they turn out so cute. So now we've got our pumpkin and our stem, and we're going to move on to our pumpkin wagon. So once again, we're going to peel up the liner paper on the main base piece, and then we're going to take the frame that we cut out of the black cardstock, and we're going to layer that frame on. So we'll pop out those other pieces and layer the frame, effectively creating a puzzle with some sticker at the bottom. And then we can start adding in the other colors to fill in the rest of this image. And one of my favorite tricks is if you die cut one of these frames and the pieces kind of stick inside, you can actually layer it right on top and then just use a little pokey tool to push through the pieces that you want to add onto your frame. And then the other ones you can just drop in. But that's always a fun thing to do. And here you can see for our little stems here, some of them stayed in, so we're going to use the pokey tool. And then for the last one, we can just pick that one up and drop it in. Next up, we're going to start adding some of the wheel and handle details, and we're using some of this storm cloud cardstock for that. And then for the centers of the wheels, we're actually going to go back to our black frame piece, and we're going to put those in for the centers. And so we're just going to drop that little piece in. And look how cute this is. Oh my goodness. I just love this pumpkin wagon so much. It's so sweet. I like that it's cute for fall, but could also be cute for Halloween cards as well. And I love that there's that little individual pumpkin that you can use to help set the scene. Now, I love using my cardstock for these paper piecing style dies. I also love pattern paper, but one of my favorite ways to use these is to use markers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut that frame piece out of white cardstock. And what I've done is I've taken all of those pieces and added them to a full stick Post-it note. And that's just to keep everything together and in order so that I can easily color in the pieces. And as I start to color in these pieces, I'm not worried about the frame on the outside. I'm actually kind of going over into the frame just a little bit to make sure my pieces are completely covered in marker. That's because I'm going to be using some brown cardstock later as my frame, so I'm not so worried about that there. And right now, I was inspired to do my coloring by Grace's card from the design team. Her coloring was so pretty, and I love that instead of a red wagon, she kind of had this like rosy pink. It's just so gorgeous. And then for my pumpkins, I'm going to do some different shades of orangey yellows. So we had more of an orange there in the center, and then on this back one, I wanted it to be a little bit more yellow. I actually went through and just went over it with a brighter yellow marker at the end to add a little more brightness to it. Then we're going to add some color there to the stems with E30 markers. And then I'm going to use some warm grays for the tires and the little handle part of the wagon too. And so you see, I'm just blending those out, and I'm doing this really quick and really easy. And you'll see when we pop these pieces into the wagon, they just look so cool. I added some rosy E markers, some E90s to that back pumpkin. Just once again, they're all orange, but just a little different from each other. Now here I have my very favorite double-sided adhesive sheet again and some chocolate bar cardstock. And this time I have the base die pieces. So these are the ones without that frame detail. And so I'm just using my scissors there to cut down the piece of cardstock and double-sided adhesive sheet that I need. We're going to peel it up and we're going to stick it to our brown cardstock, creating a cardstock sticker. And then we can run this through the die cut machine, and we're going to have our base pieces for our wagon and our pumpkin. Then out of the same exact color of cardstock, we're going to die cut the frames for both the pumpkin wagon and the pumpkin. And we're going to be adding these frames on. So once again, we'll peel up that liner paper and then we can attach that frame, creating our sticky puzzle. And now, just like we did with our plain colors of cardstock, we're going to drop in the pieces that we colored with markers. And you'll see as we drop these pieces in, it's almost like magic. The whole wagon just comes to life. And this is why this is one of my favorite ways to add color to all of these different paper piecing style dies. And we have a bunch of different ones for different seasons and different occasions. And I just think they're just so much fun. And so for the center of the wheels, I'm dropping in some of the brown, and then I'm going to continue to drop in the pieces that we added some marker color to. Another fun way to add some dimension to this die would be to cut it from colored cardstock like we did earlier, but do some inking, just some quick inking with a brush on the edges, and that would add some beautiful dimension too. And so now you can see I'm just dropping in all of these beautiful pumpkin details. Oh my goodness, it's just so pretty and so cute. I just love the way Grace colored these. It just looks like this perfect nighttime pumpkin look. And so you'll see later that's what we end up getting inspired by to create the rest of this card, which is going to be a Peekaboo Pop Up. Now, one of my favorite things about the way that Grace colored in these beautiful pumpkin wagons is that she also added all this white gel pen detail. And she not only added little white gel pen detail, but she added extra little dots and little X's to create almost like sparkles. And you'll see as we add this detail, it just makes the whole thing come alive. They just look so cute. And so now we're going to add a little bit more of the sparkle. And for that, I'm actually taking out a thinner pen because I'm not so careful with my pens. I thought, oh, a thinner one, maybe I won't make as many mistakes. And I think adding those little sparkles on there just make it feel really special, and it's really going to go along with the nighttime theme for this. Now, I was talking about other paper piecing style dies, and here are some of them. And this Foxy family one is so cute, and I thought it would just be adorable with this pumpkin wagon. So I really love mixing and matching these. So we're going to take the smallest fox, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to add our double-sided adhesive sheet to some brown cardstock. We're going to die cut the base piece. Then we're also going to die cut the frame piece from some brown cardstock. We'll peel up that liner paper, and then we'll add that piece on there, creating a cool sticker puzzle. I went ahead and die cut the fox frame out of some white cardstock and added that to a full stick Post-it note just to hold everything in place. I added some color to the fox, but when I did that, he matched the pumpkin way too much. So I decided to go in with some E1917 markers and just to add a little bit more brown to him, and now he's sticking out from the pumpkins just a little bit better. For the face and the tail, I'm just doing a very, very light brown marker. It's like the E000. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to add some rosy cheeks. And then we can start to make the fox come to life. So we're going to fit in all of these pieces. Oh my goodness, look how cute this is. This little fox is just adorable. Next, I'm going to take a dark brown marker, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color to his nose, just so his little kind of button nose sticks out a little bit better. I'm going to finish adding in the legs to the fox, and then we're going to add in the eyes. So in the eyes, I'm just going to take a black marker, and I'm just going to color those in, and then we can drop the eyes right into that cute little fox. And then to make sure he coordinates and matches with our pumpkin wagon, we're going to add some really cute white gel pen details, and you'll see that that really makes the whole thing pop. I kind of layered him behind the wagon to make sure he had enough little details. I added some more little lines there just to really make him kind of match, and look how cute these look together. Oh my goodness, I just love it. So now we're going to be creating a Peekaboo Pop Up for these guys. So we're going to take the main Peekaboo Pop Up piece, and we're going to be die cutting some textured green cardstock in this kind of like darker, sagey, mossy green that I think is so pretty, and it's going to give us this nighttime feel. Then we're going to be die cutting some of the new Let It Shine Starry Skies paper, which I just am in love with. It's so pretty. And we're going to die cut that with the main base piece too. We're going to make sure that the green piece has the score lines on the left and the star piece has the score lines on the right. And the one that has the score lines on the left, we're going to fold that in a valley fold. So we're going to fold it in and then back, creating a V shape. And if you've never made a Peekaboo Pop-Up before, make sure to check out our Intro to Peekaboo Pop-Up video. We're going to link it in the description below. Then on the star piece, the one that has the score lines on the right, we're going to create a mountain fold. So it's going to be folded in the opposite direction. And the one here on the left has the valley, and the one here on the right has the mountain. So the one with the valley fold, that's going to be the one that we're going to die cut our hill from. And in the intro to Peekaboo Pop Up video, we talk about how the golden perfect height for make the Peekaboo Pop Up work with any of the mechanisms is 2 3/4 inches. So that's what we're going to use here. The Peekaboo Pop Up die comes with this really cool hillside border die. So we're going to line that up with the tick mark. We can hold that in place with some low tack tape, and then we're going to run that through the die cut machine. And that's going to give us a beautiful hillside for our starry sky and our beautiful nighttime hayride kind of scene we're creating here. So right now we're going to take this hill piece and we're going to be flipping it over. We're going to add some tape runner to the right of that score line there. So right there on the end, we're going to add some tape runner. And when we're going to flip that over and attach that on to the base, and it's going to line right there in that bottom left-hand corner. Next, we need to choose our mechanism. And in the intro video, we talk about the 3 mechanisms and how they place everything in a different point on your card. So right here, I've got my 3 different mechanisms that I need to choose from. And I'm just going to take my pumpkin wagon. And what's going to happen is the fox is going to peek out from behind the pumpkin wagon. And I decided I really want the fox to peek out there, which is really far down the card, right? It's really going to be far down there. That means that we need the biggest of the mechanisms. So that's the one we're going to be working with today. And so that's one of the ways I like to pick my mechanism, is just kind of eyeball it and see what I think. And I definitely want the fox over there closer to the right-hand side, so we're going to use this big kind of L-shaped one. And we're going to die cut that from the same pattern paper as we have in the background so that everything blends and looks really great together. Now this die has a little score line right there. We're going to take this score line and we're going to fold the score line away from ourselves, just like that. Once that fold is nice and secure, we're going to flip this piece over and we're going to add some tape runner right to that little triangle that we formed as we folded it. So right there. And then we're going to attach this mechanism into our Peekaboo Pop-Up. So we're going to open that hill up and we're going to line it up just underneath the stitching line and just to the left a little bit of the edge of the hill. And that's going to be a great placement for this mechanism. Now you'll see that you can fold that hill shut and it's going to line up with the edge, and our mechanism is going to move just like that. So what we need to do is we need to add some adhesive where those 2 pieces overlap. So we're going to add a little bit of tape runner just like that. And then we're going to line these 2 pieces up, and now we're going to have a working Peekaboo Pop-Up mechanism. Now it's time to start decorating this card, and I want to go through some troubleshooting that I did to create this card, and I hope it's going to be helpful as hopefully you start to make some Peekaboo Pop-Ups as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some tape runner to the bottom of my pumpkin wagon, and then I'm adding the pumpkin wagon on the card so that it lines up with that mechanism when it's open, so that way our fox is going to peek out from between those 2 pumpkins. So now I'm going to add some tape runner to the fox, and we're going to add him there. And I mean, look how cute this is. He's just going to peek out right there. I think that's just adorable. Now you're going to see what happens when I close the mechanism. The fox ends up peeking out the bottom. And the reason for this is I'm using the largest mechanism with a really large critter on it. It doesn't really happen with the other 2 smaller mechanisms. But I'm like, oh my gosh, well, what am I going to do? Well, there's a really, really easy fix for that. And I wanted to show you that. So I'm going to pop open my card. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this mechanism and we're actually just going to angle it just a little bit. That way the fox has a little bit more space. And the cool thing about the Peekaboo Pop-Up is that it's still going to work. I love that there's so much give for this. So I just rotated it just a little bit so that that little fox has enough room to hide. Just a little tiny rotation, and then look at that. He's now ending up in the right place, but he's not sticking out the bottom. Now, he's a little bit curved to the side, so I'm just going to peel him off a little bit and just kind of twist him and put him in a little bit better of an orientation on the mechanism. And that happened because we twisted it some, and then now it's perfect. So it's super easy, super quick to do. Just open your card back up, twist that mechanism, your critter's going to fit, and you're going to be able to make the exact pop-up card that you want to create. Now next up, I'm going to take the new Giant Happy Fall and I'm going to die cut some gold metallic cardstock to go along with those gold stars. But in this case, this sentiment was a bit too big to fit in the background. I didn't quite realize it until I tried to fit in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my scissors to trim out the word fall, but we're going to do some stamping for the word happy. And that's a really fun way to use these giant sentiments, is to kind of cut them apart and get a different look. For the word happy, we're going to use the new Simply Fall sentiments. There's a happy Halloween in there, and I'm actually just going to cut the stamp sets apart. You can do that. You can cut them apart, use them separate, and then just fit them right back together like a puzzle piece and use them as Happy Halloween or just happy. And then here is some blue cardstock, and we're going to stamp in some clear embossing ink. We prep the paper with an anti-static powder tool, and then we're going to sprinkle on some gold embossing powder, once again, to go along with this whole beautiful gold metallic feel we have going on the card. Then we can heat it up with a heat tool, and then we're going to die cut that with a sentiment banner die so that we can easily add it onto our card. And now we can start to add the sentiment into the card base. And I just love this look. We were inspired by Grace for this card and also Elise, who had a really cool nighttime feel. And Rebecca here in the office was talking about that whole like fall kind of nighttime hayride feel. And I feel like this card really has this. It's just was so much fun to make. And it was really fun to get to troubleshoot something by using such a large character on a large mechanism. I was able to come up with a new idea and a fun way to make the Peekaboo Pop Up work with the exact design that I wanted. So now we've added the word fall and happy and just trimmed off the excess on the side of the card, and that cute little fox pops up right next to the word fall, which I just love. And then at this point, I kind of looked at the card and was like, it needs more pumpkins. So I went ahead and die cut and colored more pumpkins, just like we did earlier in the same colors that we used on the pumpkin wagon, and then added those fun little gel pen details to them. And I'm going to layer these pumpkins in. And I was just kind of playing around. You're going to see that I added one pumpkin on the edge there because I kind of like the look of something going over the edge of the fold, but it didn't really end up working in the design. It looked really cute when it was open, but when I closed the card, it felt kind of blank at the bottom. So then that's when I thought, you know what, let me take that pumpkin and move it over. And that's what I like to do with these Peekaboo pop-up cards, is just kind of move my placements to make sure everything looks nice, both when it's closed and when it's open. So we're going to layer that pumpkin right there, and you'll see it just looks a little bit more balanced, but when it's open, it still looks super cute too. The Peekaboo Pop-Up die has this great rounded rectangle die that's included in it, and I like to die cut it from white cardstock and then layer it onto the back of my Peekaboo Pop-Up so that I can write a message. So we'll just add some tape runner to the back of that, and then we're going to layer it onto the card there, right onto the back, right in the center, and this card is going to fit in a standard size envelope. Then we can write our message, and then, oh my goodness, how cute is this when it pops up? I love how the little fox is just peeking out from behind this whole scene. It's so sweet, so much fun. I had such a blast not only creating the pumpkin wagon with that fun paper piecing puzzle piece feel, but also this fun Peekaboo pop-up is just adorable, and I cannot wait to send this to someone. Next up, Shari is creating the sweetest pumpkin wagon card, and I love the cool technique she did to add some texture to the pumpkins. So take it away, Shari.
So for my pumpkin wagon card that I'm creating today, I'm going to start out by creating my background. I'm starting out with a piece of speckled eggshell cardstock cut with the largest stitch rectangle die. I've put that onto my media mat with a little bit of removable adhesive, and then I've lined up the new birch tree stencil all the way across, and I'm using my magnets to hold that down. I'm inking up these trees with some manatee ink using a blending brush. I was just checking to see how that was looking. That is the look I want to go for. And I'm going to be inking this up by tapping off my brush sometimes and other times going straight to the cardstock, so I get a variation in the intensity of the color. So I've just worked my way all the way across, and once I have all of these birch trees inked up, I can pull my stencil away and reveal my forest. Now to work on that pumpkin wagon. So I will be cutting out the outline from some storm cloud cardstock as well as those solid pieces. I have a piece of storm cloud cardstock that I am putting a piece of double-sided adhesive sheet on. This is going to be the piece that I cut my solid pieces out of. They'll be completely covered in adhesive, and it will make it super easy to assemble all the pieces. I've picked out some colors for my pumpkins. I've got fake tan, canned pumpkin, #2 pencil, and sage. And before I cut these pumpkins out, and I also have some barn red, this is the wagon, I'm just going to set that one aside. I'm going to do some stamping on these. So I'll be using my MISTI to stamp out my gingham backdrop. I'm using the smaller of the two ginghams, and I'm just going to lay this on here and then close the MISTI door and pick it up. This way I can keep it on my MISTI and stamp every piece of cardstock. I've picked out some ink colors that match my cardstocks, so this is going to give me a more subtle tone-on-tone gingham. So I've started out, this is the fake tan cardstock and the fake tan ink. And you can see I'm going to get this really fun tone-on-tone look. Next, I have canned pumpkin cardstock and pumpkin spice ink. Then I have the sage cardstock and sage leaf ink. And then finally, I have number 2 pencil cardstock and number 2 pencil ink. So here are all those fun ginghams. And then I'm going to leave the red for the wagon solid. So I've pulled off that liner paper. You can see I have adhesive all over this solid piece. And I'm going to take the outline and line it up and stick that down. Now I can start to die cut all my colors and drop them into place and build my wagon. So I'm starting out with the barn red for the wagon. I forgot there was this little trim piece. Luckily, I've just put that in my little trash bin there and I can dig that out. Then for the pumpkins, I'm going to do the middle one as fake tan. And you could actually do multiples of these because as you see, I've got the other 2 pumpkins cut out of fake tan as well. Then for the one in the front of the wagon, I've got that number 2 pencil for a very yellowy pumpkin. And then for the one in the back, I'm using that canned pumpkin cardstock. And then I will use those little pumpkins and use some of these colors for those as well as that sage one. So again, I've just pulled off that liner paper so that there is adhesive all over the pumpkin, put the outline piece down, and then I can just fill it in with my colored pieces. So I'm going to make a sage pumpkin, a fake tan pumpkin, and a canned pumpkin. And these will just sit around the wagon on my card on the ground. Of course, I have those stems and I'm just going to cut those out of paper bag cardstock and drop those in the tops. And then I have some narwhal cardstock for the wheels. And I'll use that storm cloud for the inside piece of the wheels. And then I'm using the narwhal cardstock for the handle. Now I wanted a darker green for my grass, and I thought that the dark green at the bottom of the Watercolor Wishes rainbow was perfect, and I actually just had a scrap piece of 12 by 12, and that's what I'm going to use. So I've cut that to 5.5 inches wide, and then I've just used my grassy border die to cut the top. Now before I glue that down, I decided I wanted some gold splatters to add a little shimmer to this fall scene that I'm creating. So I'm just going to use my watercolors to put some splatters up in the sky. And then once those are dry, I can add my grass along the bottom. And then before I start to assemble my pumpkins onto my card, I'm just going to put this whole background onto a card base. Now I can start to put my images on. I'm using some foam squares so that my die cut pieces are popped up off that background. Of course, I'll start with this wagon so it's nice and centered, and then I'll start to add the pumpkins that are around on the ground. I really like this sage colored pumpkin. I think it has a really cool different look. And for this pumpkin that's kind of tucked behind it, I'm just going to glue it directly to that card base. And then this one can be popped up on a foam square, and I will pop up this one as well. And then finally the sentiment. I'm using the sentiment from the Simply Fall Sentiments that says, "So grateful for you." And I really like the size of this sentiment. It's nice, big, and bold, and it looks perfect up in these trees right above that pumpkin wagon. Now I'm actually going to stamp it twice so it's nice and dark. And then I felt like it needed something kind of sprinkled around in the sky. So I pulled out my Happy Harvest stamp set because I knew there were some very small, solid stamped leaves in there. And I'm using that same Storm Cloud ink to just put a few of those kind of floating around in the sky. And then finally, I'm just using my white gel pen to add some detail highlights to the pumpkins, and then I will add some to that red wagon as well. And then here is my finished card. I love those gingham pumpkins as well as that light birch tree background, and it makes me so ready for fall.
Oh my goodness, I just love those gingham pumpkins and those beautiful birch trees, Shari. It's so gorgeous. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And this card by Audrey just blew me away. I love the colors that she chose. This card by Grace is so sweet, and I love how she included some of our favorite fall characters in with the pumpkins. It's absolutely adorable. This card by Mindy is also just so sweet with the cute little puppies and the added sunflowers. I love it. This is one of the cards that inspired us to make ours today. I loved this nighttime scene by Elise so much. It's just such a fun thank you card. This card by Letitia has such pretty colors, and I love that she included our Happy Harvest scarecrow. And then here, Kara was so clever to combine our garden gnome paper piecing die with the pumpkin wagon. I think it's so fun with those stitched trees in the background. Melissa Mann created such a gorgeous layout. I love all the stamping she did, and then she included the pumpkin wagon and individual pumpkin, and they're large enough images to look really, really great on a layout too. Shari brought the pumpkin wagon into a Halloween card with that giant trick-or-treat and the jack-o'-lantern, and I just love it so much. And then Melissa Stinson created the cutest and sweetest layout. I just love it so much, and those little pumpkins at the bottom are just perfect along with that nitpicky winter paper. And then I love Lynette's fall scene, and the way she triple layered that giant happy fall looks so cute along with the beautiful markering on the pumpkins. So we cannot wait to see what you guys do with this pumpkin wagon die, so make sure to share it with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!